Public participation, we've got no public forum participants this morning, but we do have 3 deputations by appointment, all of which relate to item 40 on today's agenda, the proposed temporary alcohol ban in the Linwood Village area. So 3 deputations, the first of which is from Te Whare Roimata, the second of which is from the Collective of the Homeless, and the third of which is from the New Zealand Police. So if I could please invite representatives Jenny Smith and Jamie Stevenson from Te Whare Roimata to the table, please. Thank you for joining us to provide this 10-minute deputation. We have set 10 minutes aside, so if you wanted to allow time for any questions, you would need to make sure that you did that within the 10 minutes allocated. Thank you.
Thank you for the chance to talk. Our role today is not to prevent Te Whare Roimata's views on the rights and wrongs of a temporary alcohol ban, but instead to come in our capacity as a community facilitator entrust with the task of ensuring a diversity of community views and community solutions are able to be brought to the fore as a consequence of your support for a community-led revitalisation plan for the inner city east Linwood neighbourhoods. There is no denying that public safety at the Linwood Village has been of concern, or that the issues being faced there are complex, long-standing and multifaceted. Our work with the inner city east Linwood neighbourhood means we are very familiar with the challenges faced. We recognise there is a need to do something. What needs to be done and how this is done requires thoughtful consideration. The complexity of the issue suggests there is not one quick fix solution. What is of concern to us is that the process followed has allowed consideration to be given to one option, a temporary alcohol ban, and without the whole community being able to discuss and explore what other options could be considered. Likewise, consideration has not been able to be given to the wider issues that are contributing to the situation. The years of monetarist policies which has created inequality, the punitive welfare state approach favoured by recent governments, the impact of the quakes on the area, and in particular the significance of the loss of almost all the bedsits, which has housed a large number of single low-income people in the area, the proliferation of alcohol outlets in the neighbourhood, and the loss of key services and shops at the Linwood Village post-quake, or the impact on the businesses of months of roadworks this year. Equally concerning is that the solution proposed has been imposed from outside. Such an approach is contrary to the community-led approach of the revitalisation plan and what it seeks to model. We fear that the solution proposed will only deal with part of the problem, alcohol, and not the more challenging issue of widespread drug taking, especially the use of synthetics. We note that the solution proposed is the 5th time that the street people have been moved on as part of the community's effort to deal with the presenting issues. At some point, we as a city need to find a way to ensure that the needs and vulnerabilities of the street people are taken seriously, and that instead of moving people on, serious consideration is had about what underlies the position they are in. Thought also needs to be given to the historical significant role that the inner city east has played in the lives of the street people. It is here that they find their whenua and their whānau. Regardless of where they are living, it is to this community that people return for these 2 important reasons. Imagine then if the inner city east and Linwood community had been able to explore and discuss the issues and possible options in such a way that recognised the rights of the residents to feel safe, at the same time assuring the needs of the street people were in some way addressed. Maybe a win-win solution for all may well have been achieved. We know from the recent community survey that local residents welcome being able to have positive interactions with the police, and we're in support of a community policing strategy which saw the police provide a positive presence at the village. If such an approach was combined with enlisting the support of Māori wardens and local kaumātua, backed up by a street worker and people with lived experience, set alongside the active input of the street people while providing positive opportunities to enable them to be involved, could it be that such a ban would not be needed? Credit must be given to the leadership of the street people who in the last few weeks have come up with their own solutions for dealing with the public concerns. Should then a temporary ban be approved today, we would urge that before making this permanent, that as broad a range of community views are able to be canvassed, as well as giving consideration to a wider range of options over and above an alcohol ban. In reviewing the effectiveness of the ban, consideration is also given to the impact of the loss of the bedsit housing in this community, as well as evaluating the effectiveness of the disbursement approach favoured by the police when dealing with public alcohol use in a neighbourhood such as the inner city east, as compared with the central city or the containment of alcohol at public events. We would also urge the police to work alongside the community in a proactive, facilitative way should a temporary ban be imposed, only using their police powers as a last resort. While we recognise that the revitalisation plan is still in its infancy, we would hope that in future such issues as this can be brought to it for consideration by the whole inner city east Linwood community. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and that does leave some time for questions. Do councillors have questions? So, Aaron?
Yeah, just around, so just to clarify, you're not that supportive of an alcohol ban? You're okay with it at this point to see how it goes, but not necessarily, is that correct?
We're really not stating where we sit on a ban. We're really saying we're commenting about the process and about recognising that there are issues and how could we get a solution that looked at being able to acknowledge the safety issues while also recognising the needs of the people of this area, of the street people.
Right, okay. So do you think a ban in one area will just move them somewhere else?
It will.
So you'd either need a ban for the whole city or not really pockets?
We look at something totally different.
Right, okay.
Because this is the 5th time that people have been moved, Cathedral Square, Latimer Square, 4 avenues, to the Linwood Village, and where next? Is the question we're asking, I guess. At the same time as recognising there is a safety concerns.
Thank you. Okay, let's see how many questions we can get within the time. So if we can keep questions concise so that we can keep to within the 10 minutes. Dion, Pauline, and then Phil.
So when I first got elected, and this was late last year, no, actually it was late last year, the conversation of an alcohol ban happened, then went to the community board and you opposed it at that point in time. What work happened between then and now?
We opposed it.
Yeah, so there was conversation around an alcohol ban at the community board for the area really early when I got elected, and the staff, and they said part of the report was that they'd spoken to the community and got the views of everybody. But I just wanted to know, from back then it was bad and it still sort of hasn't changed. I mean, is there any work that has been done between then and now that you have done, or that the community has done?
I think we can acknowledge Brenda Lloyd-Johnston for the work that she has done with the people and some of the leaders of the street. We would say that it is not as difficult as it has been this time last year. In the summer months it was really challenging. It is calmer and peaceful. With Brenda's help, she has been able to talk with the people on the streets, and there's a lot more respect that we have seen. Not saying that fights occasionally don't happen or other difficulties don't happen, but from where we sit, we're seeing a more calmer period at the moment. I don't know, Jamie, if you want to add. Jamie works, I mean, we both work in the village.
Yeah, but this is completely contrary to how I do feel about
Okay, let's just stick to questions. We've got limited time, so Pauline and then Phil.
Thank you. So you mentioned that the loss of the bedsits was a big factor. So a lot of these people would be in bedsits if some were still there?
There was certainly the bedsits provided a form of accommodation that a number were able to be housed, and they may not be the most brilliant of housing, but it provided that connectedness that has gone.
And the other thing is, do you feel that this probably should go for full consultation?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
And Phil, this will be the last question we've got time for.
Just that if there's say there's the council agreed to a temporary alcohol ban, Jenny, but you indicated that in fact sort of police intervention might be a last resort, but you also really seem to be saying, look, a combined approach with, you referred to the Māori wardens and local kamatua. I assume you were saying with the police. I'm just not quite sure how that would work, especially if we, how could it work, especially if we do have a temporary alcohol ban?
I guess we would look to see a range of things so that if the ban was in place, it was the last resort. And obviously if there's disorder, we're not saying it's got to be dealt with, and we're saying that maybe there are some powers there that the police either need or have already got that they can access to be able to deal with it. The bigger problem is the drug issue. That's the issue for us that we see. And we're saying a combined approach is what's required. Do you want to add any more?
I guess, oh, I see it, time's up.
No, answer the question.
I guess there's probably within the, I mean, we've already just had conversations this morning and seen the resourcefulness of the community in approaching these things. And so I think everyone agrees that there's a range of issues that need to be dealt with. But to tap into that resourcefulness of the community, of the people who it affect and other people who live in the community to see what they think is the best way to handle it with Kaumatua, with Māori wardens, with possibly police, if that's what people prefer, but that conversation hasn't yet fully taken place. It's in the community.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for the deputation, and thanks very much for providing full answers to those questions as well. Thanks for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I can now call our second deputation, representatives of the Collective of the Homeless, if you'd like to come to the table, please. So Brenda Lowe-Johnson, good to have you with us. Good to see you. Could you please introduce, or have the others in your team introduce themselves?
Hello, my name's Abraham Neho, and I'm with the Collective.
Thank you.
My name's Tippy with the Collective.
Great, thank you very much. So thanks for joining us to make your 10-minute deputation this morning. You have 10 minutes, and if you wanted to allow time for any questions, that would be within that 10-minute period. Thank you.
Hello, I'll speak up first. The homeless are in favour of a liquor ban there. It can be like a temporary or a permanent. Permanent's better. Before I was homeless, I lived in the area. I raised my children there. When they went to the shops, there was no big crowd of people drinking and arguing. So I'm in favour of keeping that place clear, and the parks. And as a homeless, we could roam anywhere else. Leave Linwood and Stanmore Road alone. Well, if we're going to have a liquor ban there, we want to be sure that no more liquor shops come in underneath us. They promised they would leave toilets open 24 hours. That's a biggie for us. And yes, shops. Maybe a pet shop. Yes. They closed down the Post Bank and Kiwi Sabre. Another bank would be nice there. As with the liquor ban, we've already implemented it in our own eyes. I've told everybody, it started last Friday. We've already told people. And there's been nobody drinking up there. So most of the homeless are in favour of it.
Great, thank you. Is there more presentation, or do we move to questions now? Okay, let's move to questions from councillors. So Tim.
So Abraham, thank you very much. So your idea would be a full 24-hour, 7-day-a-week liquor ban, and the best thing you think that council could do also is supply good toilets or good facilities 24 hours. Is that right? Well,
it'd be a good trade-off. You know, you will support the liquor ban, and then we have toilets, at least for hygiene. That we, because I guess they lock them all at about 9 o'clock all the public toilets, even around in the mall here.
Because we do that because we have problems with vandalism, but if we take the alcohol, there's a ban there, and you guys take responsibility, that would be the ideal solution, wouldn't it, do you think?
Yes, I would rather pay, you guys pay more money on paint to get rid of graffiti than locking the doors and picking up pieces in the park.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Yanni.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in, to all three of you. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else? We've just heard from the previous deputation that the alcohol ban should only really be one sort of thing that we consider. Is there anything else? You've talked about the toilets, but is there any other ideas that you have about how we could be supportive for the people in the area?
I'd like to you guys to all get together and outlaw synthetic drugs, make it illegal. It's a big problem on the streets now, bigger than the homeless thing. So I want to get rid of the synthetics, bar it or whatever, and the shops that sell it. There's a couple of shops selling it still in Stanmore, and that's a bigger problem.
Aaron and then Glenn.
Yeah, so your point about the liquor ban, and you mentioned parks as well, but the deputation before said that it will just move the problem elsewhere. Would it be more helpful to the homeless community if we had a liquor ban across all public spaces, including parks, throughout the entire city, or not?
My opinion would be not. Just parks in the strategic places close to the shopping centres. That's the only places you really need. Around the drinking, around the shopping centres. It's all right for them to go down into the park. I'm in favour of that. Everybody goes have a wine and listen to music in the park. Parks are safer for the community if everyone's drinking down there. I'd rather them there than right outside the shops.
Okay, and also with the toilet situation, would it not be a good thing if the toilet block had a couple of showers attached to it?
That would be fantastic. Handicap toilets, because they got showers in there. But for the use we could use it. Hygiene's another big problem on the streets. Thank you.
Glenn.
Kia ora, Abram. I think you talked about liquor outlets, so we're dealing with something short-term today, but I think you were talking in the big picture about liquor outlets. Did I hear you right?
Yes.
That you want those reduced? Or?
Yes. Well, why put a liquor outlet in a liquor ban area? So, yeah, we don't want those things to come back into the community. If we want to tidy up our community, we need like good shops, vegetable shop, fish shop. And a post bank, bringing back the bank.
Yeah.
That's easy enough. Key bank, bring it. We can't walk all the way to Linwood, and the old people will appreciate it too. They just go to the post bank, open that up.
We're going to have another go at our local alcohol plan, so that could be something that we consider as the location of
the liquor places. Yes, that would be good. Thank you.
Anne.
Kia ora. Thank you so much for coming in, and you're very eloquent, Adrian. Thank you for sharing with us. It's great to have your perspective. And you said that you brought your children up in the area, and they were able to move safely around the community at that time. Have you thought about what else could help the community to become your community, this community we're talking about, to become safer for our children, for our young people? What else could be there?
I want a fun world. Put it there. Make a big playground, entertainment place. Every other city's got a fun world. We got nothing. Where do our kids go to have fun? Margaret Mayhews is the closest we got, but we could make things better, similar to Rainbow's Inn. Well, we haven't got anything in Christchurch similar.
So at the moment, do you feel that it's safe for kids to walk to the dairy, to the shops and around the area?
It wasn't before, because they could just walk into a volatile argument or fight that just started through alcohol. Better they're not there, the kids will be safe.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing the deputation to us this morning. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, and thanks for your detailed answers to those questions as well. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So our third deputation is from New Zealand Police, Inspector Richard Bruce, Area Prevention Manager, Christchurch Metro, and Conal Ross from New Zealand Police on this same item. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the table. As with the other deputations, you have 10 minutes and that would include time for questions. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm Richard Bruce, I'm the Inspector in charge of alcohol harm and the community constables for Christchurch Metro area. So that's my reason for being here, and with me is Conal Ross, who's one of our constables on the community and South Central community team, so he's actively working in that area every day of the week. Thank you for hearing this at such priority, and also thank you for the council staff for the work they've put in getting this to you so quickly. We are here to speak in support of an alcohol ban in the area because of the community concerns, our wish for the community to be safe and feel safe, and what I know about the alcohol issues in the area from our community police team. An alcohol ban from a police perspective is a useful early intervention tool for police to deal with potential offenders before another offence has to be committed before we can intervene. It's a prevention tool for us. It also assists in reducing victimisation by dealing with alcohol-related harm early before matters have to escalate. We support the wider approach of a community approach working with police as well to resolve issues. We know that an alcohol ban is not the sole way to deal with issues within the community, but it is an effective tool for us to take action with. In summary, we fully support the ban. We are prepared to enforce it if we have to, and we see it as a way to prevent offending and reduce victimisation. I'd also just like to give Conal a minute or so just to talk about his first-hand observations of having been down there for at least a year and what he's seen that relates to alcohol and the issues around community safety and what's going on in the area. Then we're open for any questions. Thank you.
So over about the last year, I've been patrolling through that area, and when I'm walking through the area, without fail, members of the public will approach me and ask me what am I doing about the problems in relation to alcohol in the area. So through that, I sort of went back to other police officers and talked about what's been going on within the area, and it's brought to my attention that this is a problem that's been several years. So they made it very clear to me that they feel let down by the police, by everyone. They feel like they're not being listened to, and they feel like the problems in relation to particularly alcohol are not being addressed. Now, every day that I'm down there, pretty much without exception, there are people drinking. It's not to say that every day there are mass groups drinking, but there is always people, 1 or 2, 3, along the stretch of the road that are drinking. And when the warmer weather, where things get particularly bad in terms of the effects of the alcohol, you'll have 10 to 16 people, normally males between 40 and 60 years old, drinking, and obviously they get to that point where criminal activity starts taking place. Now, I guess for me, it would be good to have a tool in place where we could speak to them early on to prevent them from drinking in the area, so they don't get to that point where they start victimising people, because at the end of the day, that's our role. We don't want to see people victimised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now move to questions. So I've got Mike, Pauline, Dion, Phil.
Thanks. I was just looking at the map where the ban's going to be put in place, and it borders on Armagh Street. Just down the road is obviously Beverley Park and playground. Is this potentially, having this boundary, just going to push people that are going to drink on the streets to that park?
Sure. So previous work that I've done on displacement indicates it doesn't displace at the same rate. So the reason we supported a wider ban, there was talk previously of having a limited ban more within numbers of some of the streets down there, but we think with the way that it bounds Fitzgerald Ave, which is already a liquor ban area, we think that the wider ban that we've put in place of Armagh in Hereford or Swart will actually deal with those issues. So we thought if it's restricted to just the Stanmore Road issue, therefore you do, I think, increase the chance of people just stepping outside a ban area, drinking and coming back in. So we think that this is that sure, there may be displacement, but we don't think it will displace at the same rate.
I guess my question is it wide enough? Like, should have gone to the actual river to try and capture that bit of that red zone, and obviously the park itself, which has got a playground in it. And I guess at the same line is, actually, do you think a liquor ban like this would work across the city as a whole instead of just in individual areas?
No, I don't think a liquor ban can work across the city from the previous work we've done on that, because you've got to show relation to alcohol harm. You can't really, my understanding is you can't put a liquor ban across a whole city to deal with the issue. You've got to have it targeted to areas.
And so what about pushing it out to Avonside Drive?
I think that could be an option for later on. We were happy to have this area as it was. We thought that was wide enough to deal with the issues that we've got. But perhaps if it's granted today, when it is looked at later on for a permanent ban, that could be reconsidered potentially.
Thank you. Pauline.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have the resources to enforce the ban if it was approved?
Yes, we do. And I can say to you that we will enforce it, but obviously we do show discretion. This is a fine offence and infringement notice. There is a power of arrest that does go with it for certain circumstances, but we will have staff down there. We've had our team down there for a long time now, so we will be able to enforce it. But obviously we work in a discretionary way, and what we're trying to do is solve the issue. So that's how we'll deal with it.
So if you've had a team down there already, why do you not have any tools to deal with issues without needing a ban?
We do have tools, but what we've got to wait for is an offence to be committed. So this is an early intervention tool where the drinking of alcohol in the public place is the chance for us to get in there early and deal with it. Whereas if we don't have that tool, what we have to wait for is someone to be assaulted, someone to be, whatever offence has to happen before we can intervene, and that's too late. And we'd rather get in there early and stop the offending using a tool like this, and that's why we support the ban.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dion, Phil, and then Anne.
The first deputation mentioned around the enforcement of police, like coming out with a heavy stick and saying this is going to be the banned area. Is there going to be a bit kind of like what did they do in the Phillipstown sort of community area, where it's a bit more sort of like working with the communities and stuff like that? Are you guys going to be working there, or is it just going to be enforcement?
It'll be a combination. If there's community groups that wish to work, then we will work with them, certainly. We would favour a joint approach to dealing with this. There will be staff in there doing this, and there will be chances there will be arrests, potentially. So I can't say that there won't be. But, you know, discretion is the way we operate. We trust our staff to do the right thing when they do these jobs. So everything will be on its circumstances. But, you know, our main aim is to resolve the issue of people drinking in that area and the associated issues that go with that. So I suppose we'll just take an approach that's appropriate on what we're faced with.
And the other question is, we were told by the second deputation that that synthetics are a real problem. Is that on your radar? And I mean, I spoke to you earlier and said it's going to be next year. I'm going to sort of work to try and sort of bring people together. But is there any work ongoing, or will this help, having an alcohol ban, to actually help some of those issues as well?
Well, I think the issue here is the alcohol ban, so I'd prefer just to talk about that at the moment. But we think that we support this. If this is granted today and we're approved, we think this will give us a really good tool to deal with issues in the area.
Thank you. Okay, so I've got Phil, Anne and Tim, and that'll be all the questions that we've got time for. So, Phil.
Thank you, Richard and Connell. Can I just ask you, just further to Dion's question, it's about the sort of combined approach that we might have, because I think that some of us are interested in that. So, and there was reference made earlier in the deputation from Te Whareamata around, for example, the Maori wardens and local kaumatua. So I'm just wondering, how might that work with the police, say, working alongside the Maori wardens? Is there a way, is there potential to have good collaboration in this area?
Certainly, I think there is. If community groups wish to come to us and we work with Maori wardens, we're more than happy to have foot patrols in the area, for example, with other agencies to deal with this sort of issue. So we understand that an alcohol ban by itself is not the way to deal with issues. We want a wider community approach, and we would happily support and be part of.
Thank you. And Anne.
In terms of I believe that you have a system where you have a kind of a graduated response system to the situation. So just quickly talk us through, if you're called to a situation where somebody is under the influence of alcohol, how does it work in terms of how do you deal with them? What's the sort of process in terms of dealing with people? So sometimes people might have the impression that there's a stick used, a heavy-handed approach. So can you just talk us through, if you get called to a situation where someone is intoxicated, how do you deal with them?
Are you talking in terms of if a liquor ban was introduced and they were breaching that?
Yes, that's right, sorry.
So personally, and I'd like to think this would be the same for most police officers, you want to de-escalate the situation right from the start. Explain to them, say, hey, listen, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, this is a liquor ban area, which means you can't drink alcohol in here. You give them the opportunity to say, yeah, fine, I'll get rid of the alcohol. However, I'm well aware that there are certain hardcore members of the public that just like to be confrontational towards police, and they may well react negatively to sort of that approach to them, and therefore potentially that person may well be either issued with a ticket, or if that's not appropriate, if their behaviour escalates from there, then potentially they could be arrested. The other option is if they live nearby, then we're more than happy just to say, hey, listen, this is an alcohol area. If you want to drink your alcohol, we're more than happy to drop you around home if it's just around the corner, and you can drink at home.
Great.
So there's many approaches to take.
Yeah. So it's, my understanding is that you're wanting to build trust and confidence in the community, and that a recent survey you had 80% trust and confidence from the people of Christchurch, and you're wanting to get that up to 90%, which is fantastic. So it's about that relationship, isn't it, and sort of forming those trusting relationships, I'd imagine. Yep.
It's about everyone feeling safe in their community.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Tim, you're happy? Yep, great. Okay, so thank you very much indeed for the deputation, and again for the detailed answers to questions that have been put by councillors. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, are there questions for staff on this paper? I intend to move directly to this paper so that we can debate it while the people that have made the deputations are in the room. Are there questions for staff? Yes. Okay, so if we